that. Ladies and gentlemen, we are witnessing yet another chapter in the geopolitical chess game playing out in Africa. Rwanda, under President Paul Kagame, has announced it is cutting economic ties with Belgium in response to what it is calling, or what it calls, unwarranted external interference. This move is being framed as a bold act of sovereignty, a declaration that Rwanda refuses to be bullied by its former colonial master. Yeah, this move is being framed as a bold act of sovereignty, which is a declaration that Rwanda refuses to be bullied by its former colonial master. But is this really the case, or is it merely a strategic preemptive PR stunt? A PR stunt. Let's take that back. Or is it merely a strategic preemptive PR stunt? Because while Rwanda is claiming to sever ties, the EU and Belgium were already in discussions about sanctions, meaning President Paul Kagame pulled the classic move. At first glance, Rwanda's decision might seem like a necessary and decisive step in asserting African self-reliance. See, the Rwandan government claims Belgium, along with the European Union, has been working to sabotage the access to development and finance as a way to pressure Rwanda over its alleged support for the M23 rebels in the DRC. Kagame's administration argues that no country should have its economic development held hostage by political maneuvering. If European countries truly respect African sovereignty, why should they be allowed to dictate who gets financial assistance based on their own strategic interests? Additionally, the move could force Rwanda to strengthen economic ties with other African nations and alternative global partners like China, Russia, or the Middle East. Given Rwanda's existing relationship within BRICS-oriented nations, this shift could help diversify its economy away from Western dependence. What is the bad, right? What is the bad in this? 40% of Rwanda's budget comes from foreign aid, with a significant portion of that coming from the EU. So while Kagame may be posturing as a defiant leader rejecting colonial influence, the reality is Rwanda's economy is still extremely dependent on Western money. So if Rwanda loses Belgian and broader European Union funding, it would need to compensate for that revenue somewhere else. And it's already started, right? The Rwandan government recently increased taxes on essential goods like fuel, mobile phone service, and even gambling, hitting the pockets of ordinary Rwandans. While Kagame portrays himself as a self-sufficient African leader, his people will bear the economic consequences of his fallout. Now, additionally, this move is not happening in isolation, right? The DRC, or the Democratic Republic of Congo, has already banned Rwandan airlines from flying over its airspace, forcing, right, costly reroutes that are affecting business and trade. The DRC has been lobbying the European Union to place sanctions on Kagame for what it claims is direct Rwandan support for the M23 rebels. However, the situation remains tense, and if the EU follows through with sanctions, Rwanda could face severe economic repercussions. Now, through all of this, what is the hidden agenda? So, what is really going on here? Why would Kagame deliberately push away Belgium when his country still benefits from foreign assistance? Why? This move reeks of damage control. Belgium and the EU have been considering sanctions against Rwanda due to its alleged influence or involvement in the DRC conflict. By taking the first step and cutting ties, Kagame is trying to control the narrative. And how is he doing that? Well, he's doing that by making it seem like Rwanda is the one making the decision rather than being punished. It's a classic preemptive PR move. It also serves another purpose though, right? It serves as domestic propaganda. See, Kagame has long portrayed himself as a leader who stands up to Western imperialism. Now, by announcing this move, he reinforces that image to Rwandans and the wider African audience, solidifying his political control. But behind the scenes, Western companies continue to profit from Rwanda's economic structure, proving that this so-called break from Belgium is more symbolic than substantive. So, who benefits? The biggest beneficiary of this situation is Kagame himself. This move allows him to posture as an independent Pan-Africanist while still maintaining maintaining essential Western economic ties behind closed doors. Now, France, for example, has been one of the strongest voices protecting Rwanda within the European Union. Now, publicly, France condemns Rwanda's alleged actions in the DRC, but behind the scenes, France continues to protect Kigali from harsher EU sanctions. Why? Well, because France has used Rwandan troops to defend its corporate... because France has used Rwandan troops to defend its corporate interests in Mozambique, specifically in French energy projects in Cabo Delgado. This is proof that Kagame is not fully rejecting Western influence, but rather managing it for his own benefit. Furthermore, or additionally, or whatever you can put in here, while Kagame is severing ties with Belgium, he is not cutting ties with the EU as a whole. This allows him to continue receiving financial support from certain European nations while painting Belgium as the villain. So, in all of this, who loses? The ordinary Rwandan people will feel the impact of this decision more than anyone else. With rising taxes and potential future sanctions, Rwanda's economy could experience inflation, job losses, and increased economic hardship. Another major loss in this situation is regional stability of East and Central Africa. The ongoing tensions between Rwanda and the DRC are still escalating. And as Rwanda moves further from Belgium, its reliance on regional players like Uganda, China, and Russia may grow. This could further polarize the region, making diplomatic resolutions harder to achieve. And finally, Belgium itself may experience minor losses in trade and investments, but given that Rwanda is a relatively small economy, Belgium's overall economy or economic health will remain largely unaffected. The bigger issue for Belgium is the political embarrassment of being called out by Kagame, on the world stage. To fully understand this move, we have to compare Rwanda's actions to the Sahel states, right? Which are Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, where leaders are taking far more radical steps to assert sovereignty. And these nations have expelled Western military forces, nationalized their natural resources, and severed long-standing economic dependencies on Europe, particularly France. The governments in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger have been clear in their rejection of Western influence and choosing to align with alternative global powers like Russia and China, which they see as more favorable to their national interests, will play a huge part. In contrast, Kagame is performing a delicate balancing act, right? He publicly distances himself from the West when it suits his political goals, yet he remains a key Western-backed leader in Africa, maintaining financial and military support while simultaneously, engaging in destabilizing activities in the DRC. Kagame's government has been accused of supporting the M23 rebels, who are a group responsible for instability, violence, and illegal mineral extraction, with activities that directly influence Kigali's economic interests. Now, unlike the Sahel states, which have made deep structural changes to their economies and foreign relations, Kagame's approach is more about managing optics rather than making real systematic shifts, right? He still relies on Western aid to sustain Rwanda's economy, yet postures as an anti-colonial leader when it serves his agenda. This duplicity allows him to maintain favorable relations with both Western powers and non-Western actors, and this maximizes his leverage in international diplomacy. Now, another key distinction is military policy. Kagame continues to allow Rwandan military forces to operate in ways that serve Western economic interests. Now, such activities will be protecting France's corporate assets in Mozambique. Now, this ongoing military cooperation demonstrates that his actions are not about severing Western influence, but rather reconstructing it to fit his strategic goals. So, while some may argue that Kagame is making a bold anti-colonial statement, the reality here is he remains a Western proxy, playing a calculated geopolitical game. See, the Sahel states are pursuing genuine sovereignty, while Kagame's moves are largely symbolic, designed to maintain his grip on power while ensuring continued Western back. Anyway, as always, the question remains: how long can Rwanda sustain this balancing act before economic and political pressures force Kagame to make a definitive choice? See, to fully understand this move, we have to compare Rwanda's actions to the Sahel states of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. Unlike Kagame, who still has deep economic and Western ties with Western powers, military ties with Western power, Rwanda's decision to cut economic ties with Belgium is not the radical act of sovereignty it appears to be. Instead, it is a strategic PR move designed to keep Kagame's image to protect Kagame's image, preempt potential sanctions, and manipulate public perception. The real battle for African independence is happening elsewhere. The nations of the Sahel are leading the charge, making painful but necessary choices to free themselves from neo-colonial control. Meanwhile, Kagame continues to play both sides, securing his power while maintaining key Western allies. Again, the question is, how long can Rwanda sustain this act before the economic reality catches up with the political illusion? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What do you think about Kagame's actions? Is he actually on the right path to actual sovereignty, or is he still working with the West? Let me know what you think. I want to know what your thoughts are on everything. I appreciate you guys watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.